Hello apes, it's Karrrisa the Destroyer. Today I'm going to be bringing you two new reviews. Now originally this review was only going to be one episode, It's a Wonderful Life, but then I saw some similarities between it and one of my personal favorite episodes, Festival of Lights. This led me to the conclusion of creating an analysis comparing the two episodes. It's a Wonderful Life is one of the episodes that simply copies the title of a movie, this one being 1946 Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life, in which a man takes his own life. Keep in mind Donkey Kong is going to be based on this character. However, there's a guardian angel which shows the man what life would be like had he not existed, and helped other people. So this episode is similar to Speed in that it copies part of a plot from a movie, yet this one works much better because it leaves much more room for variance in the fact that it is not restricting itself like Speed. And that's what allows this episode to implement creativity with its characters. Not that it does such in a fantastic way. Another reason why these episodes are so great to compare is that it's not just a simple case of one episode being greater than another. It's that one episode fails in its core element, however, the other succeeds in this, yet the pacing of the successful episode is lacking, but the worst episode always has something going on that is interesting. Donkey Kong deeply disturbs the residents of Congo Bongo 6 times. What an original concept! First, he breaks Funky's surfboard, then he mildly inconveniences Cranky, then he ruins Bluster's biggest barrel order, thereby ruining Candy's raise, then he loses Diddy's lucky ball, then he forgets to attend the
annual Future Ruler of Congo Bongo Barbecue Banana Dinner!
This naturally leads DK into a sad song about him leaving.
Why should I stay? When they treat me that way.
This song is pretty emotionally powerful, but this ends when he dies? He wakes up in an alternate reality. This brings us to the part of the episode that holds some merit. In this alternate reality, he finds an evil Diddy Kong chasing K-Rool to get the papier-mâché lily pad. He is then greeted by
Eddie, the Guardian Angel Yeti!
Of course! That's the perfect character to be a moral voice for Donkey Kong. In fact, even though they could make Eddie serious throughout the episode, they ought to make him semi-serious because he occasionally spouts stuff out like,
Without Donkey Kong, Congo Bongo, not same place. Go for Snow Cone?
It's important to note the plot of It's a Wonderful Life when going into this episode, and on a surface level, this is similar to the episode. But on a deeper one, it isn't. This episode does not show how DK impacted their lives, it merely shows a role reversal of the bad guy. It prominently does not feel like DK directly impacted their lives, but rather that Diddy is not bad only because DK was born. One prominent absence of this episode is the moral found within It's a Wonderful Life, the film. In short, there's very little takeaway from this episode. Seeing Diddy Kong as a villain and K-Rool as a hero really does not tell the viewer anything. Did DK make K-Rool the villain? In It's a Wonderful Life, there is a clear message that you should value yourself because you are important to others' lives with your kindness. In this one, it is extremely dumbed down to, if you don't exist, things are bad. In fact, the only real clear thing that we see is that Candy would date Bluster if DK did not exist, which isn't even a surprise, and it also does not serve to further any narrative. We see more clips of Diddy Kong, which proved to be entertaining.
What's that up there?
Hey, come on, there's nothing there. Why you... Hey! I know where you live! I accept your apology, you old...
Odiferous orangutan?
That'll work. You odiferous orangutan!
Seeing the world like this upsets DK so much that he creates one of the best songs in the series.
Eddie, let me go back to my home. Without me, everything's all wrong. Eddie, let me go back to my home.
With his newfound existence, DK ruins Bluster and Candy's marriage in about 28 seconds. DK then meets with Funky, and Funky is cool with the fact that they were friends in another life. Paralleling how he messed things up in the real world, he ruins Funky's plane. He then destroys Diddy Kong.
You're leaving me standing here with nothing to use to attack those worthless lizards so I can achieve world domination!
After destroying Diddy Kong, he does the worst act known to society.
You lost my ball!
He then holds the paper-mache lily pad and breaks it over at K. Rool's mines, thereby making all of the scene inhabitants of Congo Bongo hate him, which naturally leads to them chasing him all the way to Cranky's cabin. He then tries to resolve their conflict by informing them that they are finally working together and that they could use the crystal coconut instead of the paper-mache lily pad. Diddy seemingly approves of this, and the group seems to think that they should thank him for helping them work together. Them working together is then played off in a joke which leads to DK running into a tree and waking up next to his friends, which forgive him. In fact, the ending of the narrative serves to fulfill little purpose as well. There's no realization made by DK that his friends need him. In the world where he never existed, his ultimate good nature of trying to resolve their conflict is played off for an unfunny and extensive joke that just makes me think about how much more this episode could have been. They had a ripe opportunity to add a moral to their story, and instead they just chose, even if you severely mess up several times in a row, your friends will forgive you, so don't worry. Which is in and of itself a very dangerous mentality considering how a world does not revolve around any real person other than Neil Breen.
'Twas the night before the festival, and all through the cabin, not a creature.
Unlike It's a Wonderful Life, this episode actually has a good opening, in which Diddy and DK discuss the holidays. This sets the mood for the episode well, which is something most episodes don't do. You know, this episode is a lot like Endgame in how they use their opening scene and absolutely nothing else. In this discussion, Cranky reveals that his favorite part of the holiday is not having to protect the crystal coconut. So basically, his favorite part of the holiday is getting off of work. The viewer also sees the pirate's ship. This leads to a scene of Kremlins going away, and a scene that reveals that Clump is alone for the holidays, which he sings a sad song about.
And I still remember Mama's rotten turtle leg stew.
After such emotions, Clump recites a nice poem that he sings.
Whenever you're sad, lonely as can be, just remember me. Think, Newt, what was that last line?
I sure wonder who it could be. While walking, DK and Diddy discuss their presents. DK reveals that he got everyone a banana, which is honestly the equivalent of a $5 Applebee's gift card. So naturally, Diddy thinks this is a joke, so he says, "No, I do not want your banana. That is the equivalent of a $5 Applebee's gift card." This leads DK into a relatable struggle of the holidays, finding presents quickly. DK asks Inka Dinka Doo about what he should do. Oh hey, that would be the first appearance of Inka Dinka Doo on this review series. Yeah, so Inka Dinka Doo is a stereotypical god that could be inspired by any Mesoamerican culture. Fun fact, the painting on Inka Dinka Doo resembles colors used traditionally by the Mayans on their structures. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but yeah, it exists. So Inka Dinka Doo is basically a blank slate of a character. It's a really good thing that he only has a small appearance in this episode, merely telling DK some very wise saying. DK and Clump run into each other, and DK sounds incredibly disappointed that he can't put Clump in severe pain.
You wouldn't hit a lizard with glasses, would you?
I can't. It's the Congo Bongo Festival of Lights Day.
Clump and DK exchange a deal in which Clump will help DK find presents so that DK will have time to set up the fireworks, which are Clump's favorite. This episode's usage of the pirates, while not all that great or too rare, is a more fresh take that does not serve to disrupt much, or become too convoluted, such as in Bugga Boogie. Can't wait to get to that masterpiece. The voices of Cutlass and Green Croc in this episode are switched.
Who's the goofus and doofus now, mate?
That's why we is the scourge of the seven seas. We be pure scum.
Aye, and what better gift to steal than the one ye be wanting the most, eh, Captain?
Regardless, I find Green Croc's motions combined with him speaking to be rather hilarious. Scurvy also recollects that he lost something long ago, which he mentions constantly. Carol finds a bunch of gifts in the vaults, which include clown clothes. He isn't allowed to take them, though, as they are for private matters. Meanwhile, Scurvy takes the crystal coconut, to which Diddy responds,
At least he's not stealing the presents.
The weird thing about this is that he said it in a way that makes it seem like he wanted them to take the presents. It's a very similar tone to in Bugga Boogie when he is trying to trick the Kremlings. On the spy cam, Clump and DK spot the pirates. So DK, Clump, and Diddy team up in a pretty fun scene.
Looks like we be all done.
Arr! What about the rest of the booty?
What booty?
That there booty on the beach.
Scurvy didn't say nothing about booty on the beach.
You think we should take it?
Aye, 'cause you be pure scum. Like I said, little buddy, nothing can go wrong.
Oh, I could think of something.
Huh?
Your plan was as stinky as Bill's water.
Diddy then asks Scurvy about what the thing he was talking about was. It turns out that this thing was his long-lost brother, and it turns out that this was Clump all along. They find that out by singing Clump's poem. I would say this is my favorite part of the episode because it does an excellent job of conveying emotion between characters in a way that's easy to understand. However, in the middle of all this fiasco, Clump throws the gun which fires once dropped because Indiana Jones logic. This explodes all the presents on the ship, but DK snatches the crystal coconut. After they explode the fireworks and go onto the docks, Scurvy reveals that Clump doesn't remember him because he left when he was young after he took the blame for Clump burning their swamp. No, I am not making this up. Although I recognize this does sound a little goofy, it's really a heartwarming moment in the series. It effectively drives the plot home with this scene and is probably my favorite part of this episode. Although this episode could serve to improve in multiple regards, I believe this episode to be an excellent holiday episode in the series. This opinion may be influenced by the fact that this episode doesn't always have the craziest things happening and goes for a more melodramatic feel. This episode closes off with Clump telling K-Rool that he's leaving to become a pirate, and K-Rool and Scurvy fighting over such. This is fine, but janky in terms of continuity. I suppose it does very likely make this the last episode, even though Message in a Ball Show is absolutely framed as though it's supposed to be the last episode in terms of a timeline. Maybe a writer just really hated Clump and wanted to make sure that a fourth season would not include him, and if he is, the writers will get called out by an internet reviewer with a small audience. Both episodes use songs very well. Festival of Lights shows how a song can be incorporated into the plot in a fun, significant, and interesting way, whereas It's a Wonderful Life provides not only great songs with fitting visuals, but also songs with a bit of significance to the plot. The only good part about the alternate reality of It's a Wonderful Life is the characters, really. The plot can be summed up in one sentence. Diddy Kong tries to take the papier-mâché lily pad from the good lizards. Of course, summing up a plot is not necessarily an end-all be-all for an episode, or even a valid criticism in some cases. However, this one I believe is different. It is simply a role reversal of the basic plot of all episodes, and even in that it fails. One aspect of K-Rool that certain episodes succeed in is having various interesting plots of him taking over the island. However, this is entirely absent in Diddy's plot, with our only knowledge of it being that it is A, his ultimate plan, and B, involving a helicopter. I can tell you're on the edge of your seat. And the best part is, this is the premise that a large portion of the episode revolves around, and also one that never results in anything. This is a flaw in many episodes. Though this episode makes an attempt to spice things up by reversing the roles' incredibly dry taste, yet Festival of Lights ditches the basic concept altogether, entirely abolishing K-Rool for the vast majority of the episode. However, one aspect of this episode that I do enjoy is the satire in the form of the papier-mâché lily pad, an object that not only aligns with the lizards in the fact that it's a lily pad, but is also a satire of how the crystal coconut is oftentimes an incredibly useless MacGuffin as well. This is played for a somewhat more interesting joke when Cranky finds the crystal coconut and brings it to Diddy, only for Diddy to throw it in the trash. There is a stark contrast when you look at Festival of Lights and you see a resolute moral to the story. This moral is that family is the most important part of the holiday, and that you have a bond with your family that transcends distance and can always be appreciated. This is achieved through making it the central theme of this episode, and it is constantly backed by more subtle themes such as Donkey Kong spending time with his family, and them still cherishing the holiday despite their presents being blown up. Even though this episode does have occasional flaws along the way, the overall purpose of this episode is just packed with so much sauce, whereas It's a Wonderful Life's essence is instilled with rotten mustard. The heart of an episode is incredibly important when viewing an episode, and few episodes have as great of a heart as Festival of Lights. It's a Wonderful Life is certainly a valid attempt, However, it falls short in many instances. As a matter of fact, I do believe that It's a Wonderful Life could be even better than Festival of Lights if its many themes were well supported by the episode, logic, and actually having a positive message. Festival of Lights is in simplest form the holiday episode. One interesting thing about these episodes is that they both lack BlusterKong almost entirely, but how does this affect the form of the episode? Well, when I think of Bluster, I think of a man with a plan. And this is what Bluster really is in essence, a hindrance. He's a hindrance that adds a bit of gritty flavor to episodes. He creates adversities that requires a creative mindset to tackle, and K. Rool, he is your villain. Stopping him also requires some creativity, of course, but more so, it is generally a simple task of stopping him from taking the crystal coconut. Both of these major components of the show are absent from this episode, and what that results in is a character relationship-based episode, be that in DK and Klump working together to help each other out, or in Klump finally leaving to be a pirate with his brother. Festival of Lights always beats It's a Wonderful Life on account of its bonds being stronger and its character relationships being founded in stronger places. In my rankings, I will put Festival of Lights below Best of Friends, and though it doesn't have that extra moral to back its story, it supports itself enough with its amazing songs and fun moments. I will rank It's a Wonderful Life above Bluster's Sail Extravaganza, as it really just barely beats it out with its funny moments being funny enough to make up for the terrible moral to the story it attempts. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this double review. As always, I'll leave a link to my Discord and Twitter below. The voices of Cutlass and Greenquack